Goku D'Angelo stares intently down the alleyway in Brooklyn, a glint of gold swinging from his neck as he throws another punch. His fists are bloodied, his eyes alight with fire. There's an exhilaration in the air, a flavor unique to the chaotic streets he calls home. Somewhere else in Bensonhurst, circa late 90s, Frankie Palermo holds court in a dim kitchen. Cigarette smoke coils into the air as he leans back in his chair. Presently, young Bambi and Nick sit straight-backed, ears fixated on Frankie's every word. Loyalty first, he insists, flicking ash, even over truth. In an FBI training facility far away, Bambi, now a full-fledged adult, exhibits flawless precision at the gun range. Each shot hits the bullseye as a photo of her family silently watches her from the locker. Her gaze is cold, detached, focused. Meanwhile, under the shadow of a burning warehouse, Nick Palermo grips the steering wheel inside a blacked-out car. He's transfixed by the flames consuming the building. His hands tremble, yet his eyes dance with the chaos. Cut to a grubby motel room in Tijuana. Inside, David Lopez fixates on Bambi longer than necessary. The air is heavy with anticipation. She wears a wire, hiding secrets under her cool facade. "You sure about this?" he questions. Her response is wordless. A kiss seals her silence. Agent Caden Winters sits in his darkened office, the weight of the world evident in his loose tie and the prescription bottle cradled in his palm. He swallows a pill, slamming the drawer shut with finality. A framed photo of his deceased partner holds his stare, even as his phone chimes, clamoring for attention he refuses to give. Across town, Emily Palermo Winters stands poised at her vanity, deftly applying lipstick as she remains immune to Caden's distant shouts. Calm, detached, she whispers to her reflection, "I can't do this anymore." In a smoky Georgia club, the air vibrates with the sultry voice of Harlow Blonde on stage. Her song is sweet yet clandestine. A gun lies concealed behind her back. The audience falls into hushed silence when Goku steps in. Their eyes meet, and every note dissipates into oblivion. Under sharp fluorescent lights, Supreme slams a duffel bag bursting at the seams with cash onto the table. Beside him, Stash Cash is entranced by his laptop, fingers flying as code blinks and morphs upon the screen. Christian's in telly as he lights a cigar, eyes steadfast. Bambi brushes past in the background, her gaze somberly cast downwards. A smirk adorns Christian's lips. He knows more than he lets on. Raindrops beat down as a funeral procession moves forward. Umbrellas bob to shield their bearers from the torrents. Goku stands solemn at the casket. Bambi lowers sunglasses, hiding eyes brimming with secrets. Nick's jaw is set firm in grief. Lopez, distant under a black umbrella, ponders quietly. Emily's solitude is poignantly stark. In stoic acknowledgement, Supreme nods to Stash. Christian's smile remains enigmatic. Neon Noir, Season 1, Mondays, 2 p.m. Central. Welcome to the war. Hope you brought a shovel. Once upon a midnight fog, deep in the ash-black woods of Carcassa Pines, there was no gentle fawn, no wide-eyed, doe-footed innocence scampering through the forest. Nah, forget what Disney sold ya. This Bambi was vengeance on 4 legs with antlers like daggers and eyes colder than a taxman in December. They killed his mother in the spring. They came with rifles, piss-stained camo, and beer breath, stomping through sacred trees like they owned the joint. Bambi watched it all, watched her fall, her legs twitching in the underbrush, breath rattling like dry leaves. His heart shattered in that moment, and from that shattered heart, a monster was born. He didn't run. He remembered. By winter, Bambi wasn't grazing in flower fields no more. He was sharpening his antlers on gravestones. The squirrels whispered about him like ghost stories. The owls stopped hooting at night. Even the wolves kept their distance, 'cause something new prowled the woods now, something personal. One by one, the hunters returned. But this time, Bambi was ready. Frankie, buckshot. Miller never made it to his tree stand. They found his body strung upside down like a butchered pig, guts missing, eyes gouged out. A single word was carved into his chest: Mother. Next came Bo Jenkins, who thought he was a real tough guy, posting selfies with dead deer online. He went missing after bragging about bagging Bambi's cousin. His jaw was found nailed to a pine tree, tongue still wagging. The forest turned quiet, too quiet. Hunters started whispering about the devil deer. They said he walked on two legs at night, that he stared into your soul like he knew your sins. Some said he had antlers made of bone and steel, welded from the traps that once maimed his kin. Then came the final one, Ray Dalton. He was the one who pulled the trigger on Bambi's mother. Bambi waited till Ray lit his campfire, warm and proud, surrounded by the trophies of his kills. That's when the flames went out, and the woods came alive with glowing red eyes. Ray tried to run, but Bambi stalked him, not fast, slow, like a judge walking to the bench, like death on a Sunday morning. When they found Ray's cabin days later, the walls were painted in blood, antlers through the door, and hanging above the fireplace like a twisted Christmas wreath was Ray's severed head, with his hunting license stapled to his forehead. Now they say Bambi's still out there. You go into them woods with a rifle, you better be ready to answer for every bullet you ever fired, 'cause Bambi ain't prey no more. He's the last thing you see before the woods go silent forever. And let me tell you, sweetheart, the hunter becomes the hunted. Moral of the story: don't fuck with nature, especially if nature's got antlers and a vendetta. You step into someone else's home with a gun, acting like God. Don't be surprised when God sends a deer with a hit list. Bambi ain't just some cute woodland creature anymore. He's what happens when you push too far, take too much, and forget that even the hunted can grow fangs. So the real moral? Every bullet's got a return address. In the smoky underbelly of two cities teetering on the edge of an all-out mob war, betrayal and conspiracy intertwine in a manner so audacious it would make even Shakespeare's jaw drop. Welcome to Neon Noir, where halos dim and neon burns. As the last cigarette ash flickers against a blackened backdrop, Bambi Palermo waltzes on a razor-thin wire strung between her last name and her luck. She's the living remnant of a fallen mob dynasty, trying to dance her way through fiery circles without getting scorched. With Goku D'Angelo, the mob whisperer, as her godfather, she's anything but safe, but hey, who doesn't love a bit of danger? Enter Supreme, because when a war needs a poet who can also become the problem with 2 lines and a loaded gun, Supreme is your man. He talks in verses and shoots in couplets, loyal to a fault, in this maze of morals where every betrayal could be his rhyming scheme or final stanza. Next up we have Harlow Blonde, who made the unlikely pilgrimage from debutante balls to the underworld's nightlife queen. She's got wit sharp enough to shave tungsten and a heart fierce enough to withstand every wrong note in life's melody. There's nothing this queen won't do to maintain her reign because losing once was enough. Stash Cash dips numbers like a bakery dips donuts. Where there's smoke, he's there counting profits behind the fire curtain with nerves of steel and pockets full of schemes. But oh, Agent Caden Winters, that man is as cold as the bureaucratic coffee he sips. His life wouldn't make it past a health department inspection, given the way he's hunting down the mob while his personal world spins wildly off axis, courtesy of his marriage to Bambi's sister. ADA Ian Wilson. Imagine obsessively pulling teeth from great whites simply because justice doesn't wait. He sinks deeper each time he decides to swim with sharks. Then we have David Lopez, the Fed with a penchant for bending rules as if they were made of rubber bands. He knows Bambi's double game and offers her cover while the history between them swirls and simmers. There's chemistry, a kind that might explode or implode any minute. Emily Palermo Winters, the wild card at the deck whose familial ties are knotted tighter than that 10-year-old shoelace you can't untangle. She's in it, married to the antagonist with more shared drama than a soap opera. And Christian Zintelli, well, some secrets are best left marinating until they're just right for kitchen nightmares on Mafia Street. As Goku D'Angelo pulls strings that are invisible yet surprisingly painful, as Valerie spins webs laced with her forked tongue, and Nick Palermo decides whether the crown is worth the bullet between his brows. This season paints a neon portrait where lies, lust, and loyalty offer just enough tension to make the heavy rainfall on bodega roofs seem ominous. Tune in Mondays at 2 p.m. Central on YouTube, because indulging in this chaotic concoction takes more than curiosity. It's an oath to unfurl drama so dense it'll make you yearn for popcorn drenched in tension oil. So subscribe before the pilot episode buries you first. Bambi's Twisted Tales, Dumbo. They called him Dumbo not because he was dumb, but because he was marked. Born in a squalid traveling circus that reeked of piss, sawdust, and stale popcorn, Dumbo was an elephant calf with grotesquely massive ears that looked like funeral shrouds. His mother, a once proud matriarch broken by chains and beatings, tried to shield him, but the ringmaster, a pale, cigar-chomping ghoul with eyes like dead fish, saw profit in misery. "Freak show," he'd hiss, exhaling smoke in Dumbo's face. "You'll make me rich." They'd beat him to make him cry. The crowd loved it. A crying baby elephant with drooping ears sold more tickets than any death-defying trapeze act. One night, after the crowd jeered so hard it sounded like a curse, they forced Dumbo up the tower for the new act. He'd jump into a tiny pool. His ears spread like wings, but they weren't magic. They were heavy with blood and bruises. He fell. They laughed when he hit the water wrong and broke his leg. The vet was drunk. He botched the job. Dumbo hobbled after that, a limping freak, eyes wide and wet. Then came the fire. Nobody knows who started it. Maybe it was Dumbo's mother, gone mad from grief, thrashing lanterns with her chained trunk. Maybe it was Dumbo himself, finally realizing rage burns hotter than fear. The flames spread through the tents like a vengeful spirit. Screams echoed in the night. The ringmaster died screaming, melting into waxy pulp under the big top. Dumbo limped out into the black fields, his ears smoldering, his mother at his side until she collapsed. He didn't cry, not anymore. He walked alone under the cold stars, ears singed and tattered. And if you see an elephant in the dark with smoking ears and hate in his eyes, don't approach. He doesn't forget. And he never forgives. Moral of the story. Call someone a freak long enough and they might show you just how monstrous they can really be. Sleeping Beauty, Waking the Asset, A Twisted Tale. Once upon a time, in a kingdom run like a corrupt city hall in Jersey, there was a princess named Aurora. But nobody called her that. They called her the Asset. Her father, the king, was a brutal racketeer in royal robes. He built alliances by cutting off fingers and sending them to rivals in gilded envelopes. When Aurora was born, he invited every crooked noble to the christening, except one. The one he stiffed? Mistress Malefica, a witch with a rap sheet longer than the FDR at rush hour. She didn't RSVP with regrets. Nah, she crashed the joint. She walked in with a smirk that'd make Tony Soprano sweat. She raised her glass and said, "May your lovely little asset prick her finger on a spindle and bleed out. But let's be sporting. She'll sleep instead, forever, until some asshole kisses her, or tries. Good luck, Your Majesty." The place went dead quiet. The king tried to have her whacked. Big mistake. His men wound up as crow food. The king was desperate. He put out word to every wise woman in the land, "Fix this." One said, "I can tweak it. She'll sleep for 100 years, then wake up with true love's kiss. But you can't avoid the sleep." The king was like, 100 years? Fugged about it. But he had no choice. He banned spinning wheels like they were heroin, had 'em all burned in the street. Aurora grew up in lockdown like some princess in the witness protection program. But she was bored, rebellious, sharp-tongued. She snuck out. She found a hidden old spinning wheel in the tunnels under the castle, left behind by some idiot who liked knitting in the dark like a psycho. She touched it, pricked her finger, and down she went. Boom. Out cold. Here's where it gets really fucked up. The king didn't want to admit she was under the curse, so he told the kingdom she'd died. He sealed her in a glass coffin like a museum exhibit, posted guards, and started a rumor she'd been poisoned by foreign enemies. Political propaganda at its finest. He declared war on neighboring kingdoms, started burning villages, all in her name. Meanwhile, Aurora was alive but dreaming, and in those dreams she saw the bodies piling up. She heard her father's speeches. She saw the bloodshed he caused to avenge her. She screamed in her sleep, but nobody could hear her. 100 years later, the kingdom was a smoking ruin. The royal line was a joke. The people were starving. A stranger arrived, a prince. Sure, technically, but this guy wasn't noble. He was a bandit in stolen armor. His crew of mercenaries wanted the gold inside the sealed crypt. He found Aurora in her glass coffin. He didn't care about true love. He wanted to loot the tomb, but he saw her perfect, untouched, unrotted. And being the creep he was, he kissed her. Aurora woke up screaming. She sat up, coughing dust, smelling the rot of a century's ruin. She looked at this filthy bastard leaning over her. She realized this was true love's kiss. Her destiny was to wake up and see her kingdom burn to ash, her father's crimes laid bare, and be bound to some scumbag grave robber who didn't even know her name. She didn't accept it. She killed him, took his dagger, slit his throat right there in the crypt while he gurgled. She staggered out of the tomb, covered in blood. Outside, the land was black with ash, the sun blocked by smoke. She walked alone through the ruins of her kingdom. She found what was left of her father's throne room and sat down. And she smiled. because she wasn't asleep anymore, and she was going to make sure the world paid for waking her up. Moral of the story? Don't tell a girl she's an asset. Don't try to lock her away. Don't assume she'll thank you for your kiss. And don't wake what you can't control. Once upon a time, but not the kind you tell at bedtime, there was a girl they called Snow White, not because she was pure or sweet or angelic, but because she was pale, sickly pale. The kind of pale that comes from working in the mines without sunlight. Her skin was chalked with coal dust, her lungs ached, and her lips were stained from chewing bitter root to stay awake. She wasn't born into royalty. No, that was a fable. She was sold. Her stepmother wasn't wicked. She was efficient. Ran a labor ring in the Black Forest, supplying pretty young girls to shadowy men with gold teeth and sharper knives. When Snow White turned 13, the mirror on the wall whispered, "She's ripe." That was enough to get her shipped off. The forest wasn't enchanted. It was industrial. Buried deep in the hills were 7 bunkers, each one manned by a so-called dwarf. That's what the syndicate called them. A cruel little nickname for the 7 men too scarred, too violent, or too twisted to function among real people. They were freaks of habit and vice, and she was their house girl. She cooked their slop, washed their bloodied overalls, picked glass shards out of their socks, and slept in a room where the lock was always on their side. They called it a cottage. Snow White called it hell with windows. One of them, Tony Pizza, a.k.a. Sleepy, was a junkie, nodded off with a lit cigarette once and burned his thigh. Grumpy? That bastard used his fists to teach lessons. And Doc? He wasn't no doctor. He just knew how to stitch wounds that shouldn't have been made in the first place. They kept her there with threats and fairy tales. Run away and the wolves'll eat ya. The Queen's got your heart in a box. There's poison in the air. The scariest part? She believed them. For a while. Until the apple. One day a trader came through. A lady with iron gray eyes and a basket full of fruit. She gave Snow White an apple, red as blood. "Take a bite, sweet girl, for every girl who bit the dust before you." So she did. But it wasn't poison. It was a vision. She saw her mother, her real mother, not the witch who sold her, but a woman who fought and died in the Union riots. She saw chains broken. She saw fire. And she saw herself, not weak, not pale, but covered in ash and fury. When she woke up, she didn't scream. She sharpened a pickaxe. And one by one the dwarves stopped whistling while they worked. Now they say, in the Black Forest, there's a woman who leads the rebellion. Skin like marble, eyes like steel, hair blacker than night. They call her Snow White, but she ain't no fairy tale. She's a warning. And when she bites into an apple, the ground trembles. Moral of the story. Sometimes the princess doesn't need saving. She needs revenge. You can only trap innocence for so long before it wakes up angry. You chain up a girl, strip her name, her body, her will, and you think she won't bite back? That's your mistake. The bleeding apple ain't about fairy tales. It's about truth. Evil doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it wears overalls, runs a sweatshop, or hides behind sweet bedtime stories. The real moral? Don't romanticize captivity. Don't confuse survival for love. And never underestimate a girl with nothing left to lose. You keep feeding lies, someone's gonna feed you the sharp end of a pickaxe. The river was black at night, so dark it didn't even show the moon. Pocahontas stood there barefoot, her hair full of thorns caked with dried blood. She wasn't the princess in the school books. Nah, she was the last line between her land and us, the ones who take. When the English came, they didn't ask. They cut down trees like they were nothing, burned villages, laughed as families ran. John Smith? Pfft, he wasn't some charming explorer. He was a silver-tongued butcher. Her father tried to negotiate. They shot him. Pocahontas didn't cry. She went to the Black River at midnight, whispering old words, words the elders said were forbidden. She cut her palms, let the blood hit the water. The river answered. It wanted more. She gave it names. Names of the men who killed her people. The forest woke up, twisting with ancient spirits. Roots writhed like serpents. The wind screamed with voices of the dead. Smith's men stumbled through the dark, laughing unaware. One was yanked into the ground so fast he didn't even finish screaming. Another was pinned to a tree, his eyes plucked by ravens. Smith ran, but she was waiting. Her eyes were two black pits. Her smile was all teeth. "You want this land?" she rasped. "You take it." Roots wrapped around his legs, dragged him screaming into the soil. The earth swallowed him whole. By dawn, the clearing was full of new trees, but if you looked close, the bark had faces in it, eyes wide, mouths open in silent screams. The settlers left offerings, but it was too late. The land was poisoned, cursed. Pocahontas was never seen again as a woman. But the forest lived on, watching, waiting. If you go there at night, you might hear singing. Not pretty, not sweet. A song of hunger. A song of revenge. Moral of the story. When you take what isn't yours, when you exploit and destroy, the land remembers. The spirits don't forgive, and the price of greed is always paid in blood. Bambi's Twisted Tales, Beauty and the Beast, the real story. There once was a merchant with 3 daughters, but let's not waste time with the sisters who were all spoiled gabagools. The youngest, Belle, was different. She was smart, beautiful, and had a thing for reading grim shit, like execution records and demonology books she stole from a monastery. When their father lost everything at cards, shocker the bum, he wandered into the forest to find work. The forest was cursed, a rotted howling place filled with black crows that spoke in Latin and bled from their eyes. He found a castle there, crumbling, twisted with thorny vines that throbbed like veins. Inside, the tables set themselves, the walls whispered. He ate a meal that tasted like meat, but bled black ichor. Before leaving, he picked a rose for Belle, a black rose with thorns that pierced his soul. The beast arrived, a hulking figure, horns twisted like devil's pitchforks, eyes glowing red, teeth filed to points. He told the old man, "That flower was fed with the blood of innocence. You owe me a life for it." The merchant fell to his knees, crying, snot everywhere, real pathetic. The beast agreed to spare him if he sent one of his daughters instead. Belle volunteered. She wasn't the angel you think. She wanted knowledge, dark knowledge. She read about the castle, about the curse that made the beast what he was. Once a prince, he summoned demons for power. He sacrificed servants to the dark. They cursed him back. Belle arrived at the castle, not screaming but fascinated. She explored rooms filled with flayed paintings that screamed. Mirrors showed her dying over and over in creative ways. The servants, not cute teapots, no. They were eyeless shades, dripping tar, moaning. The beast watched her read ancient grimoires by candlelight. He fell for her because she wasn't afraid. She liked it there. They dined on meat that squirmed. They danced while ghosts howled a waltz. But the castle wanted her soul. The beast proposed, "Break my curse, marry me. I will be human again. You will be queen." Belle realized. Breaking the curse required sacrifice. Hers. She'd have to give up her humanity. She did. The final ritual had her lie in a circle of bones while the beast carved sigils into her flesh. She screamed, but not in terror, in ecstasy at the power she felt growing inside her. The castle's walls bled. The shades wailed as she absorbed them. The beast turned human, beautiful, radiant. He smiled. Then she slit his throat with a ceremonial dagger. A queen needs no king. She took the castle for herself. The roses turned black, blooming everywhere. The forest died. And Belle, no longer Belle, ruled as the new beast. Her eyes glowed in the dark. She still waits there in the shadows for men foolish enough to pick her roses. Moral of the story: don't pick flowers that don't belong to ya. Don't make deals with monsters. And never underestimate a woman who likes to read. Capiche? The real Cinderella. Ashes to ashes, blood to glass. Once upon a time, in a kingdom where smiles were currency and silence was survival, there lived a girl named Ella. Not Cinderella. That name, that lie, came later, when the fairy tales were sold to little girls and royalty needed good PR. Ella lived in a house that stank of mildew, locked windows, and lavender-scented rot. After her mother's funeral, her father, too drunk on grief or gin, no one ever figured out which, remarried a woman with the voice of a harp and the heart of a wasp. Lady Genevieve and her two porcelain doll daughters arrived like termites, smiling, painted, and quietly hungry. By winter, Ella's name was forgotten. They called her Cinder Wench for the soot under her fingernails, Ash Girl for how she slept by the hearth. She was 13 when her father fell off the roof. The roof was flat. The death was ruled a divine accident. But Ella heard the creak of boots that night, 3 sets. And so, the girl with burn-scarred hands and calloused feet did the chores. She cleaned bloodstains no one explained. She sharpened knives she wasn't allowed to use. She smiled when commanded. Because Ella had learned, girls who cry disappear, and girls who obey live another day. But she didn't plan to obey forever. Years passed, and the prince announced a royal ball. Rumors swirled of a curse on the crown, how his lovers died in their sleep, lips blue as bruises, eyes wide with fear. But what did that matter? The girls still flocked. Hunger for a man with power outweighs rumors of death. Ella's stepsisters shrieked in glee, fitting into corsets like snakes into bottles. Ella asked if she might attend. Lady Genevieve laughed. You'd shatter the mirrors, dear. The prince wants a lady, not a corpse in rags." So Ella smiled and said nothing, just like always. Then she went to the cellar. Down there in the dark, where her father used to whisper lullabies and now only rats lingered, Ella opened the iron-bound trunk. Inside was her mother's dress, black lace, moth-eaten, but elegant in a way that made the candles flicker like they were scared. She slit her palm and whispered her mother's name. Liliane. The shadows moved. The dress rose. Something old and forgotten slipped into the room. "Do you want to be free, child?" the voice asked, not with words, but with cold breath and a stench like wilted roses. Ella didn't flinch. "Make me unforgettable." When she stepped into the ballroom, everything stopped. Her dress was midnight and oil slick, her hair coiled like smoke. The prince, pale and smiling too wide, grabbed her hand and whispered, "You smell like death. I like that." They danced. He didn't blink. She didn't breathe. At midnight, the magic waned. The hem of her dress was crawling with worms. Her shoes, glass, sharp and biting, cut her with every step. But she didn't stop. Pain was familiar. Pain was home. Then she ran, as if on cue, because curses need drama. She left the slipper, of course. She also left something else in his pocket. A shard of mirror, tainted with her blood, and her mother's. The next week he came, crown on his head, slipper in hand, smile sharp enough to cut bone. He tried the shoe on Genevieve, too small. Tried it on the daughters. One chopped her toes, the other her heel. The shoe drank it all. Then he found Ella in the cellar. She didn't greet him, just stared. "You're the one," he whispered, licking his lips. "No," she said, standing tall, blood dripping from her cracked heel. "I'm the end." The slipper shattered in his hands, slicing his throat. As he gurgled, she took the crown from his dying fingers. Lady Genevieve was found hanging from the rafters, eyes plucked out. The sisters vanished. Some say they wander the woods barefoot, sobbing, shoes nailed to their hands. As for Ella, she ruled for a time, a queen with no king, a girl with cinders in her smile and revenge in her bones. They still call her Cinderella, but only because Ash Queen terrifies children. And the real story? It don't end with happily ever after. It ends with silence and the sound of glass cracking. For more tales like this, subscribe and hit the like button.